but I tell a story about Tone, and I tell that story.
Oh my gosh.
I'm always like, Colette was like, the dogs are here. You're calling the dogs.
But sometimes she got really high.
Yeah. And then Harley. Let's talk about Harley Quinn.
She's become so important to me, and like, I just lean on the strength I garnered from her so heavily. So thank you for giving me that gift. It's impacted my life in a very real way.
I don't want to cry. I'm not crying today. I'm so grateful.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
You're crying.
I always say, like at a con, that you have to start with acting training first. Like, nobody in this world came here because,
Oh, I have an interesting sounding voice.
do you have any acting experience? You have to be able to bring characters to life with your voice.
Pharmaceutical companies, they have gotten everybody together to run these clinical trials. And what they said was the market can't solve it. This is curing kids with cancer, so there's not enough money in that.
And we've all been through so much life together, right?
Yes.
Marriages, divorces, kids, whatever it is. And it's like, I think maybe, Colette, you'll know who I'm talking about. There's been one or two people that get a shot at a job and they're such a terrible person, we never see them again.
Yeah.
It's only really wonderful people that sustain careers in this business because our hearts are that pure. That's not an act. Like, that's just who we are. When we're at cons and there's parents that are like, I'm sorry, because their kid's having a hard time and there's a line or whatever, we're never like, okay, move along.
No.
We're like, tell me your story, and it's so nice to hear these stories.
And the parents love you for that because they are so used to being discounted or swiped to the side.
You want to get some interesting stories, you ask everyone what their favorite con story is about meeting kids and meeting families, because they're...
So Tara, while we've got you here, I have a few questions for you. What's your favorite con story?
I have a few. So forgive me, fans, if you've heard this already, but there was a girl who was dressed as Raven, which Raven and Harley are probably the two biggest cosplays I see of my characters, although I love when anyone does. And she was dressed as Raven and she was talking a lot. She was like, what do you think about episode? And I looked over and her mom was bawling. And people cry a lot when they meet me, but I knew this was unusual. So I went over to see if she was okay. And she said, my daughter is severely autistic and hasn't spoken in 5 years. And when she heard you were coming, she hasn't stopped talking. And I was like, wow. Like, I could feel it in my body. I could feel it. And I was just hugging this mom so tight and like thanking her for this opportunity to connect with her daughter. And that happens a lot with animation. Just about a month ago, I met a dad that said, my child was nonverbal, and having your shows and sitting with him had us connecting for the first time. That's how he learned to connect. So that's one of my favorite. Second favorite is this kid was deaf and he was in line and he was just about to get to the front and his mom cut in front of him. And she said, I don't know why he loves you so much. He was born deaf. He's never heard you. And so I asked him, I know sign language, just words. I'm not great at sentences, but I asked him if he could feel the vibrations of the characters. And he said, yes. So I took his hand and I put it right here and I went, hi, Ep1. And he went, and he started to cry. And then his friend started to cry. And then his mom started to cry. And it was the sweetest thing. So those are my two top favorites.
You're such a conduit of love, Tara.
so beautiful.
That's what I think.
Yes.
I was just saying this on Maya and Bialik's podcast. I feel like a conduit for these characters, for love, for whatever it is, for something in the universe that helps spread joy and love. That's who I feel I am. Yeah. And so when darkness comes, when hard times comes, I just keep trying to hold on to that and keep spreading love and light no matter what is going on around me, which can be hard. It can be hard.
Yes, it can.
But I just try to stay there because that's what matters.
There's a lot of science starting to come out about sound frequencies and healing and putting the body in resonance with its own healing properties. I think that there's a lot to be said for the voice acting, the love, the character that comes through, the music, the sound effects, all the mix that we do in places like this. Everyone really thinks that the visuals are everything for animation, but I believe truly that it's actually 51% sound and 49% picture. The sound that you're hearing, the voices, the embodiment of the character that really makes you believe that person is real is coming from the voice actors. I think
it's such a collaborative process, right?
It is a
Colette,
village.
you know this. If you have a director in there that makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing or isn't great, like it's not a good time. You have to have a good director like Miss Coco right here. You have to have great writers. You have to have great animators. You have great storyboard artists. You have great musicians. Like all these creative people have to come together to create this magic. And when it works, it is magic. No question. No question. I've had kids that like, I had no friends till My Little Pony, or I wanted to, end things until I met Raven, or whatever it was. And you feel like, oh, I'm so lucky that I get to do something that makes people feel loved, feels happy, feel connected,
that they
come
feel
together.
feel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty lucky. It's such a great business. When people are like, I really want to get into voiceover, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah, right? That's the question. That's the number one question we actually get asked.
Yes.
Everyone, how do I get into voice? But I think it's not just they want to be voice acting, they want to be a part of
This
that
community, our
love.
community. The
Yeah, and
village.
it's valid. It's valid because it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
What would you say? I know you've been asked this a million times. What do you say when they ask you?
I always say, like at a con, that you have to start with acting training first. Like nobody in this world came here because,
Oh, I have an interesting sounding voice.
do you have any acting experience? You have to be able to bring characters to life with your voice. You have to be able to visualize it strong enough that what you're saying is making people feel something,
it
believe
with
that
the voice.
character is real. And that comes from scene study and improv classes and all kinds of things. And also I say to people, it's not just an easy answer, right? If you're going to say to someone, oh yeah, try and spend $10,000 on a demo and this, that's unfair, because I know people who are insanely talented who've been in this business forever and can't afford their health insurance. So there's all sorts of factors that go in. There has to be a serendipitous moment that you book something that puts you on the map. I must say, me and Coco Bananas,
That would be the Powerpuff Girls.
Bubbles touched people around the world because she was so cute. And
She was really sweet until you messed with her.
I'm so Bubbles, by the way, in real life.
Oh, by the way, I have to tell you.
So it wasn't acting. It wasn't acting after all.
We recorded Powerpuff Girls here, Salami Studios, in case you guys didn't get to hear that earlier. Thank you, Gary. But I used to always do the studio that we recorded Powerpuff Girls, the back was the parking lot. And how many times would I go, the dogs are in the back door. The dogs are right there. Pitch was so high that Eddie and I would Eddie Collins and I would oh my God, bleeding. Ears are bleeding.
So funny that you say that, because and another follow-up to your other question is I never wanted to teach because I didn't want to take money from people if I couldn't promise something in return. And so my boyfriend, who comes with me to all the cons, said, why don't you just share your secrets and make it like a community? And so we started to build that, and I recorded 10 different episodes of just my process and what I do so that you can share in it.
Yes.
And there's a whole chapter. I don't want to give it away because we're not released yet. We're almost ready to be released. But if you follow me on social, that's where I'll be releasing it. But I tell a story about tone, and I tell that story.
Oh my gosh.
I'm always like, Colette was like, the dogs are here. You're calling the dogs. And
But sometimes she got really high.
Yeah, I needed desperately a quick fix to a Harley Quinn issue, and I only thought of one person, and everybody trusted me, as I trusted her, and she came in and always ready for anything I throw at her.
Thank you. That was terrifying too, because I was Batgirl alongside Arlene, who Harley was created for. Right.
Wow.
So when Arlene no longer could, and she kind of relinquished, I was like, okay, watch this. So of course, listening, and then I have a process as well of who I pick to do certain things. And as I listened to Arlene and I speaking bass voice, I went, no, I know exactly who will be able to do this. Similar bass voice.
Oh, I mean, thank you. That was like some pretty big shoes to fill, and I was pretty terrified because
Wouldn't have known it.
Well, I just wanted people to love what we did, because you also, and we talk about this with good directors again, you said we want it to be based in what was created for her, but then make it our own and, put our own spin on it. We don't want you to do an impression. So I was like, I hope people still like it. And even from then, from the first day I booked it to now, she's grown and changed so much. And I always say that doing a video game in particular, you know this can be exceedingly vocally taxing, even if you're not doing 1,000 death sounds because it's just you for 4 hours. Yeah. And so sometimes you can get cranky, but when it's Harley, I never get cranky because I feel like she's my therapy.
Yes.
Like she started out as an abused woman, as a sidekick, and then over the years she grew and became her own power and her own entity. And there were many moments in a studio when I was going through hard stuff where she would say something that I was like, oh, I'd love to say that right now. And as she grew into her own skin, I felt like I really did too, and built my armor right alongside her. And she's become so important to me. And like, I just lean on the strength I garnered from her so heavily. So thank you for giving me that gift. It's impacted my life in a very real way.
Yeah. I don't want to cry. Not crying today. I'm so grateful.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
You're crying.
Well, to that, Tara, you know, when we were talking earlier about acting and like taking acting class, how to get going, what you just described, the growth of that's not just coming and doing a job. That's connecting to a character that you start to embody and grow, and it starts to inform your own life. And has that been one of the trajectory aspects of your career?
Absolutely. There is a serendipitous element to these characters where you feel very connected. You have given them life, they give you life, and it's this like eternity symbol of love that you share with this character, even if they're a bad guy, right? Because whatever someone's origin story is, whatever they went through, you don't know. And so like to visit worlds that you wouldn't normally get to play on camera. I'm not going to play a 10-year-old boy, or wouldn't normally do in person. I feel bad if I've accidentally hurt someone's feelings. I'm certainly not going to take a bat to anyone's head, right? So you get to play all these characters that you would never play in real life. And for me, in my process, I see it in my head. These characters are like sentient in some way where they live up here, and when it's their turn to come out and play, they do. And I feel like I see what they see, right? Because you know this,
You're
Coco,
on
if there's a
stage.
line, if there's a line
Absolutely.
and it's whoa, and the line is you see in the stage directions, it says you see a hot guy or you're falling off a cliff, which by the way, that's
differently.
another reason why you need a good director, because sometimes it's not in the stage directions and she'll be like, whoa, that whoa is because you're falling, not because you see a hot guy. Then you have to be able to see it in your mind. And even yesterday, I was doing an audition right here. This is my home studio. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, how long does it take you? So my process isn't about time. Sometimes I'll do an audition in 5 minutes. I'm like, that's it. And sometimes I'll take 3 hours. And yesterday was 3 hours for one character. And I just kept going in and feeling her and imagining her in these moments. And when there was like a pivotal scene, this just happened to me yesterday. So I'm like, forgive me for rambling, but getting it off my chest. Like at one point I tapped into something where I felt like I could see through her eyes at the dining room table where she was sitting, explaining this thing, and then crazy stuff happens behind her, and I could see it all like I was like in that world. And I think
like
have
you
to
were on
have that.
stage.
you have to have that.
Several times I'll give that direction to a talent that's not quite getting it. I say, I need you up on stage. I need you to be talking to the entire Full House audience, and I need you to be performing in that tempo at that pace. Completely different read. Another thing along your question, about episode 6 in any of our seasons, I will say at episode 6, my talent will now start telling the creator of his own show or her own show, or the writers, what their characters will and will not do.
She wouldn't say that. She wouldn't do
Ownership.
that. Yeah.
Ownership. They take such ownership of these characters. They'll go, no, I don't do that.
They're like, she wouldn't say that. I know. Or it'll be like, can I say it like this? Because I feel like it would be more like that. Yeah, that happens because you feel like you become part of that character. I feel
amazing
very
transformation.
connected, especially to most of my bigger characters. I feel very connected to them. And honestly, that's why we get sad if someone else plays them. It's not that we wish ill of any other actor. I certainly wasn't the first Harley. I'm not the last. I'm sure other people will come in. But when you start becoming a character and you play this character and people connect to this
They're
character,
your heart.
you feel like they're you. It's not a selfish thing. You actually feel like, you know, like a symbiotic titan. Like you feel like you are part of this character.
So what happens when you're working with a director or producer who's sitting behind Colette? So Colette's voice directing, there's a producer and a director usually behind her who's got the script and they've got the board and they kind of know, and they say, so your character's going to fall off a cliff while seeing a hot guy. And so I want you to say it both ways.
Oh, no.
I'm not worried. Coco would get that. She'd help
Right.
me.
She
No, I
would.
will say
That's 1,000%.
I will say the other kudos to I'm sorry, I call her Coco forever, but the other kudos to her is often when there's other producers, writers, studio heads in the booth, there can be too many cooks in the kitchen where everybody wants their own thing. And there is a way to speak to an actor. There's a verbiage that helps them get best performance. And if you don't know that, you can really crash a session. And Colette's a very good filter. Like, I honestly think of her sometimes as a little sugar sifter. She's going to get all the salt out and just give you the sugar. Like, she's just making sure
I love that analogy.
Yeah, you just know what
gorgeous.
she's saying to give you performance, as opposed to, I've heard people say, oh, we really want that more squiggly.
I'll love it when I give you finally those little pieces of sugar because all the salt's down here and I'll just give you, but it's
give me the sugar.
nothing to do with what they've told me. But I know, that
her.
what I'm going to tell you, you will get exactly what they want. And so when I give you the direction and they go, no, and I'm like, and then you deliver. It
beautiful. Matters. A good voice director really matters. And so if there are other creators watching right now, to have someone like Colette in the booth to really help navigate sometimes that can be tricky waters is essential. If you want really good performance, you should have someone in there that knows how to speak to actors, that has relationships with your actors, that's not going to just give direction to show I deserve to be in this seat. There's so many elements that go into making a good director, and they're worth paying. So just FYI.
Thank you.
My little
That's really
speech
good.
for voice directors.
I've been in that seat as the producer and director, sitting behind Colette, saying 15 million things, and Colette goes, turns on and goes, Click says, make her younger.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I go, that was it. That was perfect. She nailed it.
Yeah.
But she is that
That's my
magic
job.
person that can turn around and can take it all in and understand that. But it is that relationship that you have with the cast. You have the shorthand. You've been through the trenches.
As I have with you, as I have with anybody that I'm in the booth with, I can usually tell. And even with new creators and new execs, and there's only so much. And I if I get the vibe of the story, because it's been so well told by the creator, we're gonna make it happen.
It's the vibe,
and it's magic.
It's sensitivity to the vibe, and then it's going to land somewhere. It's going to land somewhere, right? You know what your tone is, where you're trying to get to. My favorite part is always coming with you guys. Like, I'm loving this. We could sit here and we will sit here for 23 more hours. You're not going anywhere, right, Tara? Tara's your you're our new side host. We have a chair. You can sit like you can be here in like an hour, right?
I'll let you know if someone's not. No, go to the next person.
Yeah. I love coming in and like the first 10 minutes. Not only is everybody just kibitzing and kibitzing.
Yes.
Kibitzing.
Kibitz.
I'm using kibitz.
Yeah.
The magic of dialing it in, right? Of like when we're at day one, like we're finding it, right? Everybody comes in a little bit nervous, a little titter tatter, and everybody's joking around, like, and then we like sit down and we get to it, and we sprint in the first 10 minutes, finding it, what is it, dialing it, and all of a sudden it goes, it locks, and like that's it. There's a moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Those are magic. Those are magic moments.
Yeah.
But it's a bunch of different levels though that are playing until we get, and then
yeah.
When people ask me, how can I become a voice actor? I'm not. Don't you want to be a producer? Like, no, I want to be a voice actor. But I say, I always tell them, like, the most amazing thing from my perspective in that world is, it's not just, can you do funny voices? It's not just, can you act? Can you modulate?
Yeah.
Make them younger, make them older, make them meaner, make them drunker.
Make them heavier,
make them heavier.
Skinnier.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that for the Screen Actors Guild, and also Actor works the same way in Canada, you have one actor for up to 3 roles before you have to pay an extra SAG scale rate, whatever the rate is at that time. And so, of course, a studio, and it makes sense in any business to want to save some money, you're going to hire an actor that is versatile, that can change up their voice. And also because sometimes they're like, oh, it'd be great to have someone walking by and say, look at that, or whatever it is. You want someone that can manipulate their voice so that you believe that there's 2, 3, 10 people there. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times on regular shows, we don't bring in a ton of guest cast, right?
Right.
I mean, because it's like, well, you filled your studio with people that can give you 100 different people.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we got that bag of tricks. And from a producer who's hiring, we're looking for people who have that bag of tricks, who can come in and sit down in 10 minutes and get it locked in, which is why we always hire people that we know, love, and trust, because because we have a limited amount of time. We don't have 24 hours in the
And
studio
studio time's
usually. We have 4 hours.
expensive. People don't
Studio
realize
is expensive.
it's
We gotta.
expensive.
I've seen you rock through a Shaolin Chronicles episode that we did, where you're ping pong and Omi at the same time talking to each other. I'm having a schizophrenic breakdown just watching you do it. But she, we were up against a guy. You rocked that
We got
record.
it.
We got
We
it.
got it.
We got it.
We always got
Yeah,
it.
always. And I love it.
Worship.
I love it when people are nervous about the timing, and I'm like going, no, don't worry, I got you.
Don't worry.
Don't worry,
We got it.
We
We
got
got
it.
this.
We got it. I
So-
will make sure that's why you hired me.
In the
I'm
cans.
the clock watcher. Thank
I
you.
mean,
went so
look, we
fast.
could go on for another 2 hours probably. And
Maybe
if
even
someone
longer.
bails and you want to call me back, I'm here. I'm on text. If you
Hey,
need me, I'll come
what are
back.
you doing at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning?
But what I mean, I'll be around some of the day. If you want me to come
Okay.
back, I'll come back because this is such a worthy cause. I believe that voiceover people, the people that work all the time in animation, are some of the kindest, sweetest hearted humans that you'll ever meet. Not that you don't have sweet people on camera, but because voiceover is less about what you look like and more about how your gift is bringing these characters to life and causing reactions in people, like you say, that affect them in a positive way. And I've had many Make-A-Wish kids come to meet me because their favorite show was XYZ, and kids at cons that say, I was going through treatment and we watched Teen Titans Go, or we watched Rugrats, or whatever it was, and it kept our spirits up, which helped us to heal. And that matters. And us being able to be there and help a family in any way, we will show up.
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I want to talk about them for just 2 seconds here. They are the second largest cancer charity behind the American Cancer Society. And so much of this donation goes to the cause, they take such a small part of it for their administration to be able to do this. They're bringing together researchers, hospitals, scientists, and pharmaceutical companies. They have gotten everybody together to run these clinical trials. And what they said was the market can't solve it, like a weight loss drug.
Right,
This is curing kids with cancer. So there's not enough money in that. And so it has to be someone like the LLS has to step up, and they have to be the ones to put the money together and to drive the clinical trials. But it's not even experimental. It is, the science is in. We know it works. There is an adult version of it, and now we're taking it through the Dare to Dream project with LLS. In what's called the PEDAL program, and it's pediatric leukemia application of this genetic pill-based treatment. It's genetically targeting the cancer that particular child has, and how many kids, so many kids watch our stuff, and we feel a responsibility to deliver beautiful, wonderful, funny, light material that raises their vibe and raises their sense of well-being. So I think it was a natural fit, and when something like this lands in your lap, and you're like, I can't not do that.
First of all, it's for children, and no child should ever suffer anything. So anytime we're needed, we'll be there.
Right.
That's what we're here to do. Yeah, sure, money is nice, but like you said before, if a company can't make big bucks off it, that's not their motivation. And I was raised with not a lot of money, but my mom always taught me that love and connection and things that you do together is what makes you rich. And money has never, ever been my God. And if you can donate whatever you can to help kids so that no parent ever has to feel fear ever again, no child ever has to feel fear or pain or sadness around cancer ever again. Like, what an amazing gift that would be to this planet. So, thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thanks. And thank you for that.
The vulgar concept of coinage here. Go to 10kheroes.com to donate. Just what you said, Tara, that the love of the voiceover community. I wanted to capture the magic that happens when all of us get together and talk and just enjoy each other and share that creativity and make this work together. I knew that there was energy and love in that, and that was the thing that we would anchor into for 10,000 Heroes.
Yes.
Every little bit counts. Like, if everyone's giving $1, suddenly there's $100 if 100 people are doing it. And that could be a pill for a child that saves their life. So
Thank you, Tara. 10,000
guys.
Heroes, everybody. 10kheroes.com. Tara, strong, the best in the world.
bye, baby.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Love you guys.